Welcome to a very special World Cup edition of the Heron Outlet. He is Austin Robillard. She is Alex Winley. I'm Ian Hest. Thank you so much for joining us. And guys, the world's biggest tournament is finally here, Qatar 2022. And we will try and focus on the games. And obviously, we're going to make reference to everything going on. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about the World Cup and what a tournament it's going to be. The first time it is ever on the Arabian Peninsula over there in Qatar, and an exciting one that it should be. The last 32-team World Cup that we will see before expanding to 48 teams in 2026. Guys, let's start with the U.S. men's national team. They're in Group B, and they'll kick off on Monday at 2 p.m. against Wales. Their group includes the Welsh, the English, and Iran in a group that I saw some betting markets have them to get out of the group. Oftentimes the U.S. gets very weighted in betting markets because they are such a heavily bet nation. And then, you look at the advanced analytics, put it at slightly better than 50-50 with Wales as the other team that possibly could get in there. What do we think of this opening round game against Wales that really, to me, looks like it's going to be crucial? Greg Berhalter came out earlier this week and said, look, everybody's sleeping on Wales. They're basically a Premier League team top to bottom, or at least who they're throwing out as their starting 11. You have the likes of Gareth Bale. You have the likes of Daniel James. You have the like of, we'll see if Aaron Ramsey gets on the field. You have some quality in that roster and a U.S. men's national team that heading into this tournament didn't look good against Japan, didn't look good against Saudi Arabia, haven't looked good in a couple of months when they've come together. So as they're sort of going to get smacked in the face here right off the bat with probably their most important group game from an advancement standpoint. And just the second day of the tournament, there's a lot that's going to hit you very fast.
Yeah, I think that this game is not necessarily all or nothing, but 3 points here puts you in a really good position, and I think 0 points puts you in a really bad position, and 1 point isn't that much better. That's as simple as that. I think this game against Wales, because it's looking like, or at least everybody's predicting, that it seems like Wales in England or Wales in the United States will be in direct competition for that second spot. This game could make or break that exact second spot, and I think the U.S. has to come out and be strong. I think Berhalter is right in not underestimating this Wales team. I think they do have a lot of quality players, especially ones that are playing in the Premier League. I mean, a lot of them. Ben Davies. You have players who used to play in the Premier League too. Joe Rodon. They have Nico Williams. They've got Kiefer Moore and Harry Wilson, Dan James. It goes on and on and on and on. And I think they, like I said, if they are an organized team, there is a lot of quality talent there that can do a job. And I think that the United States will have to be even more organized and stick to a game plan that can help them get past. But I think this game is almost everything. I think if you lose this game, it's going to be extremely tough to climb out of the group, especially with England. That match and trying to get 3 points from that. I'm very interested to see how they come out, but I do think it's going to be a tough one.
To your point, Austin, they have that first game against Wales. If they lose that game, well, Wales plays Iran at 5 a.m. Friday morning. So if they lose that game to Wales and Wales then go around and beat Iran on Friday morning, that game against England, if you lose that, you're out of the tournament, just like that. And so you could go to bed on Thanksgiving night and foreseeably wake up the day after in the morning and be fighting for your World Cup life if you lose this game. On the other side of the coin, if they win this game and then that Wales-Iran game ends in a tie, well, a win against England and you've now advanced. And just that quickly, you're into the round of 16. So you are right in the way that this lines up. Things move very quickly in your group in the World Cup, Alex, and that just makes this first game all the more important.
Yeah, and I think for the U.S. especially, it's like you guys said, it's a race for second place. They're gonna have to get a win if they want to make them knockout stages. And Wales is they rise to the occasion always with these tournaments. So, it'll be a tough game, and depending on who Berhalter puts out, it'll be hard. If Wales are a good side with Bale and basically a Premier League side, like you guys said. So yeah, I'm just curious to see how it all goes out. At the end of the day, it's World Cup soccer and anything can happen. So you never know.
Alex, you are doing a lot of coverage for the U.S. men's national team in this World Cup for Bleacher Report. You should check out all of Alex's articles throughout the tournament. We're very excited for you. As you started breaking down how this tournament's going to look for the Americans, not playing so well heading in, how are they going to need to find that quick momentum, that quick turnaround in a system that Greg almost lives and dies by, no matter whether it's going as poorly as it has looked in recent games?
Yeah, I think with this first game, they have to start out strong. They need 3 points regardless of who's available, whatever, you put out your strongest starting 11. You get 3 points there, and then, and then you assess, your next game, which will be against, was it England? Their second next game? Yeah, it's England, it's Wales, then England. And yeah, yeah, that's the tough one. I think, probably a foregone conclusion that the English will top the group. Maybe the U.S. can give them a run for their money and in the game, maybe not topping Group B, but yeah, it's between Wales and the U.S. right now. Yeah, I'm just curious to see because, Greg is so, stern with his tactics and whatnot. So I think I don't know, like something crazy will happen where he'll start a player that we're not expecting, or maybe he'll try something different. I don't know, but I think the Wales game, if they get 3 points, then attempt a draw against England. I think England just has more talent than them and will probably win. And they can beat Iran. That's what 6 points, and you pray that the other group results go their way. So it's definitely plausible and possible, but you know, um, the biggest question is who's going to start up top for them, who's going to score. I think the midfield's pretty set. There's also questions on the back line with Aaron Long. I'm really high on Tim Ream, so I think he'll start. So yeah, a lot of questions in attack and in defense, but if they get that together, get a win against Wales, and then see through potentially a draw against England, or do they do their best against England, and then onto um, Iran and try to get 3 points there. Maybe knockout rounds is feasible.
Austin, the midfield, I know that the defense is where you're concerned the most, but I wanted to we'll touch on it in a sec, but I wanted to go through that midfield for a sec because I think that really that's going to be the engine that churns this team, or at least stops a potential collapse. And that runs through Yunus Musa for me, because you're going to have Adams and McKinney. That if you're assuming Greg sticks with his system that he's done all along, it's a 4-3-3, and it's Adams, McKinney, and who's that third person? It's rotated so many times that it's tough to count. And each time someone's been in that third midfield role, it hasn't really looked that great outside of Yunus Musa. And if he's able to really lock that down, then all of a sudden you feel like, okay, I can pay more attention to the center backs and the situation there. I can pay more attention to, is Christian Pulisic dropping way too deep and losing all sight of goal as he tries to get the ball further and further, dropped in. Those are the issues that I think the U.S. men's national team needs to be focused on. So as long as they're worried about this third midfield role, I feel like you're paying attention to problems that should have already been solved. Do you just straight away, is it Musa's job? Are there other players that you would throw into the mix? Kellen Acosta comes to mind, perhaps. Where are you going in terms of that third midfield spot?
I mean, I'm going Musa. I think this Musa, McKinney, Adams midfield, the little of it that we've gotten to see over the last couple of years has been outstanding, and it's by far the best. And I think that is 100% what you need to do. Now, when it comes to making a change in that, I'm not necessarily looking at any other defensive style player. I'm not looking at a Kellen Acosta. I'm looking more of a Gio Reyna as an 8 or a Brendan Aronson as an 8 rather than somebody else who's going to fit the defensive mold, because I think this team will lack some sort of creativity if it's not Brendan Aronson or Gio Reyna. And I think without them on the pitch, I'm trying to find out where it comes from still in my mind. And I'm looking at the front three and what Berhalter would do, and I think it's a direct correlation between the midfield and the front three in terms of creation. Obviously, Pulisic will start on the left. I think Berhalter time and time again has proven that he will start Timothy Weah if he's fit and healthy on the right. And up front, you'll have a player, and whether it's Josh Sargent or Haji Wright or Jesus Ferreira, any of those three guys are going to need some kind of service. I know Tim Weah is great at getting it behind. I know Pulisic can get himself on the ball. But I still think that they need to be fed, and I think that that's why so many people are asking for the Brendan Aronson to start, because of what he's done with Leeds and the creation that he has, the creative ability that he has. I think Gio Reyna, who's finally back fit and healthy and playing week in and week out for Dortmund in the lead up to this World Cup, who's been, yes, being played out on the wing, but can still play in that 8 role if they need to unlock another team's midfield.
This is where I want to just jump in with you on that. Is then do you put Pulisic as the third midfielder? Do you drop him because he's already playing so far back?
I think I'd actually prefer, and I'm not saying that either of these things will happen, other than playing him as like a, let's say, just for Inter Miami reference, a Robert Taylor, Indy Vassilev type 8, I'd rather see Pulisic play in more of a false 9, forget the strikers, and maybe put Reyna and Weah on the wings, and then keep your midfield, and you can do something like that to, again, have a creative type player, because Reyna can play on both sides. Weah's probably going to stay on the right. I think Aronson can also play on both sides, too, and in the middle. So I think, just experimenting with Pulisic at a false 9, which is not something they've done at all, which kind of also is an issue, could be a possibility. But I throw my hands up and say this is all on the management right now, and I'm very curious to see what they roll out with. I think it's going to be the most standard thing that we can imagine. I don't think they're going to be experimenting, like we said, but there's just so many different questions with this roster that it's hard to, not only with the roster, but with how Berhalter has, put out United States men's national team lineups. There's too many questions right now, and I think that could be a downfall of this U.S. side. Talent's there. They've got to figure out how to make all of the talent work, and I think the reason why Berhalter has been questioned so much because I don't think that he has gotten the most out of the talent that is on this roster.
Yeah, I think I was just looking up the roster right now, and it's it's a conundrum. I do think, honestly, I feel like that midfield 3 is set between Musa, McKennie, and Adams. I don't think that'll change. It's really between the wingers. I also don't think, even though playing Pulisic as a false 9 would be a good idea, I don't think that will happen. I think he'll stay on the left and cut inside with Jedi, Anthony Robinson just overlapping on that left-hand side to give them, the U.S., some width so they can, spam his crosses into the box. On the right winger side, that's where there's questions. Personally, I think Berhalter will start Aronson, but, if you need some more, just creativity, well, not saying that Aronson isn't creative, but Reyna is an excellent dribbler. If you need some more of that, you start Reyna, but against Wales, I do think, I don't know if the U.S. will have most of the possession with that, so I think that if Tim Weah is fit, I think he'll go with him, but I think the U.S. will be super defensive. That's why, switching gears with the defense, I do think that Yedlin could probably start in that, and then maybe Dest plays against England. I don't know. I'm just worried about his defensive, tracking back. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things that they can do with this, but I do think that midfield 3 is set. It's all about the right winger spot at this point, and who's going to start at right back. I know we're all high on Yedlin, but Dest I'm a bit concerned about. But apart from the midfield 3, the front line can change and the back line will change. So it's all up in the air, really.
Yeah, so let's close out this talk on the U.S. men's national team with the remaining question, which is, who are your 2 starting center backs? There are, like you said, Alex, you're high on Tim Ream. There's Aaron Long. There's Walker Zimmerman is an option there as well. Who are the 2 that you're going with right now? Game 1.
Yeah, Walker Zimmerman and Tim Ream. Ream's been in good form for Fulham. He's played against most of these English players, in the Premier League with Fulham. Walker Zimmerman, I've always been a fan. He's a really good physical ball playing center back, so I think that'll fit well against this Welsh side who will have pace in behind and physicality. And if Ream and Zimmerman start together, and then you have Anthony on the left and maybe Yedlin on the right, that's enough pace and physicality to kind of stymie anything the Welsh are doing.
Any thought to CCV, Austin?
Yeah. And I think the only reason I do have that thought is because of the Welsh, pace in attack. And I think with Ream and Zimmerman, they're not two of the fastest center backs in the world. And I think when you look at CCV, that is an option, but I do think that 100% just because of the form that they're in, or at least for Tim Ream's sake and what Walker Zimmerman has meant to the U.S. men's national team, that is the pairing. But I am looking at CCV saying that is a potential because of the pace that the Welsh will put out onto the pitch. But I don't think it'll happen. I think it's going to be Ream and Zimmerman. I actually think Long, because of Greg Berhalter, has more of a shot at starting than CCV, which is unfortunate to say. But that's what we've been dealing with as U.S. men's national team watchers. And it should be Ream and Zimmerman. It should be 100% Ream and Zimmerman, and I think that it will be.
But you can hear the tepidness in your voice that I think, no matter who it is of those four, no matter which two you pick, you're gonna take a deep sigh. You're gonna have some fingernail biting. It's not a source of strength for this squad.
No, not at all. And I think honestly, which is kind of crazy to say, but Miles Robinson would make me a lot more comfortable if the whole ACL thing didn't happen, and which is super unfortunate for him. And I think he would have had a real shot at starting in this World Cup.
Yeah.
If he would have had a decent season with Atlanta United, who I think we're talking about Miles Robinson as a starter, maybe alongside somebody like Chris Richards, which
that
again,
was
with his
unfortunate
injury,
too, right? Yeah.
When that's another thing that was super unfortunate. So I think down the line, the U.S. has talent, young talent in center defensive spots like Miles Robinson and like Chris Richards, who are unfortunate to miss on this World Cup, but will end up playing for this team down the line. It's just right now, you look at a 30-plus-year-old Tim Ream, and granted, Walker Zimmerman in the prime of his career, who has done great things for Nashville, and even LAFC before that, is, I think, a locked-in starter, especially because Berhalter's admiration for him, it is. I am a little bit tepid. I am a little bit nervous because I think that this is possibly the weakest point in this team, other than maybe the questions surrounding the striker area. But yeah, it's gonna be a nail biter no matter what.
Real fast, we'll go around the room. Who does the U.S. make it out of the group, and are they first or second?
Yes, second.
No, actually, I think Wales will get it.
Wow. And I'm going to go yes first,
Yeah.
because I think they can get 7 points. I think they can get a draw against England and get through on goal difference. So, and honestly, I just want Senegal. I just want Senegal in the round of 16. I think it would be an amazingly fun matchup. I really do. I think it'd be great for both countries.
They're very stingy in defense.
As is typical for the U.S. Yeah, but the U.S. always finds the African team in the round of 16. So,
wait a minute. So hold on, Ian. Let me bring you back down to earth for a second, because Ecuador's in Group A, right?
So this lets us transition.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the groups. So yes, Ecuador versus Senegal. I think that I think all three of us probably have the Netherlands going through. All three of us probably have Qatar not doing very well. So the question in Group A is very similar to that question in Group B of, give me the case, Austin. Give me the case for Ecuador. And Alex, if you want, or I'll take it for Senegal.
Yeah, look, with Ecuador, it's a young team with a lot of potential, and I think there are some veteran presences that will help as well. I think the first game against Qatar is kind of a blessing for them, if they can take advantage of the occasion and stick it to them and make a statement that Ecuador is there to play. And I think, like what we were saying with the U.S., a lot banks on the first game. I think over the course of history, everything banks on the first game in World Cups. Like I'm pretty sure it's some crazy number. Like if you win your first game, you have like a 70% chance of going through, or something ridiculous like
70,
that.
It's
Even
78%.
higher.
Yeah, I think it's 78%.
Exactly. So everything banks on the first game. But if Ecuador can come out and make a statement, I can see them absolutely going through as a second team. And I am praying that if Ecuador is the second team, that the United States do not finish first, because then that is the first round matchup in the round of 16, and I would hate that. But either way, I do see Senegal most likely going through over Ecuador. Now, I did not make that prediction in my MLS bracket because I absolutely have to root for Ecuador, but I think the questions surrounding Sadio Mane for Senegal are something to look at too.
This is a good time for us to plug the bracket challenge that we have, the Heron Outlet Bracket Challenge. Make sure you go on MLSsoccer.com. You can sign up and you can join the Heron Outlet League. We'll have it all over our social media too. So go to MLSsoccer.com, join the Heron Outlet Bracket Challenge for the World Cup Predictor, whatever they call it, and we'll have some fun with that. Here's my case for Senegal outside of Sadio Mane, and that is that I don't. You had talked about it earlier with our regular episode of Campana not being selected, that where is this Ecuadorian team going to score from? Is it they're going to really need to find goals in awkward places? And I think with Koulibaly, I think with Kouyaté, I think that with Papa Sarr, that this Senegal team is big, it's explosive defensively, and I don't think you're going to be able to get those balls over the top on them. That I think just matchup-wise, it's a great matchup for Senegal to be able to really have nothing that Ecuador can do with it. For me, Senegal's more at risk of a team like Qatar, that nobody knows what they're going to put out on the field, and that can be more dangerous of a potential dropped points for me. So that's why I'll go with Senegal. And honestly, the Netherlands, on paper, they should be so much better than they are. Something about them never seems to, or hasn't been gelling as well as they've intended. So I wouldn't go past them, tying a couple games and getting into trouble there, and needing to squeak through on goal difference. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's similar to what we're talking about with England. Yeah.
I think they do have questions in attack. I mean, a lot of people are looking at like where they're going to score goals, and I think a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Cody Gakpo is going to be this breakout player, but I don't think they have like a solidified front three that looks like a real goal-scoring threat, and I think that's where the questions come for the Netherlands, but I don't think it's something they have to worry about in the group stage rather than the knockout stage.
I will say that the Netherlands don't play a 4-3-3, they play with a back three, so and yeah, I think that front two will be Depay and Weghorst. So they've got a good combination of where did Bastos come from? Anyway, that's a throwback name. But Wout Weghorst, it'll be him and Depay up top, and it gives a good balance. You have a bit of a more physical center forward with good technical ability, and Depay who will kind of float in and around the box, and then you have really solid wingbacks and Dumfries, and then of course that back line with Van Dijk and Nathan Ake. I do think you guys are kind of understating the Dutch a little bit. They've gotten their act together under Van Gaal, and he's implemented this back three because the 4-3-3 just wasn't necessarily working for them. And they're reaping the results of this. Their last two games, they beat Poland 2-0, and they just recently beat Belgium by a goal on September 25th. So yeah, I do think they'll top the group. Maybe they're dark horses, I don't know, but like you guys said, they always tend to fold at the worst times. So we don't know, but I do expect them to go far at least.
Alex, let's move on to Group C and probably the first. If you believe in England, you think that we've already talked about a World Cup favorite. But if you're going by the betting odds, this is where we first find one of the big three for this tournament in Argentina, Brazil, and France that are the overwhelming favorites to lift the trophy. That group is pretty much going to be theirs for the taking. A pretty easier group with Saudi Arabia probably holding it up, and maybe even a situation that we've been talking about where it'll be up against Mexico versus Poland. Mexico made some very bizarre choices in who they brought to the World Cup. No Chicharito for Mexico this time around as well. Poland, surprisingly, under the radar, maybe. Karol Skłodowski of Charlotte started up top for them in their game against Chile, a 1-0 win for them. They've got some nice players. Their central midfielder, Zarawski, I think he plays for Fiorentina. He's a nice holding midfielder. Another one of those teams that you mentioned playing three at the back and trying to really suck the life out of teams. In Mexico, Poland, with Argentina probably leading the group, break it down for me, Alex.
So this is an interesting group. I think Argentina, they're topping this unless they fold dramatically. Poland are the strong favorites for second. This Mexico side has been really weak. Did you guys see the roster release a couple days ago? It's one of the weaker sides that we've seen go to World Cup, and the Mexican fans weren't happy, and maybe they needed Rodolfo Pizarro. I don't know, but it's not as good of a side that they normally put out. I also won't underestimate Saudi Arabia. They're actually surprisingly a solid team. I know they played the U.S. recently, and they gave them a run for their money, and so obviously I'm not saying that they're going to top the group or anything, but I do see them causing some havoc and playing some good soccer and maybe getting a result or two, of course, against Argentina, which is their opening match. It's going to be very difficult, but I can definitely see them maybe sneaking up points against Mexico, maybe Poland. I don't know, but I think Poland will finish second, Argentina first, Mexico third, Saudi Arabia at the bottom.
How sweet would it be, Austin, for Mexico to finish third in this group?
It would be something that U.S. fans will revel in, but I honestly think that Mexico have a chance to finish bottom if they don't get their act together.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, this like you said, Alex, the Saudi Arabia team, has had some sneaky good games, and I think they're one of those sides. Right, exactly, and they're one of those sides that it's one of those sides that, like, all of their players play within the country, and most of them are on the same team. And I think that kind of poses some sort of an advantage sometimes for these smaller countries in these tournaments, going against a weaker opposition, the weakest opposition we've seen from Mexico in quite some time. So I think it's very possible that they might not get off to a strong start. I'm pretty sure they play Saudi Arabia at 5 a.m. our time on Tuesday, that is. And then after that, Saudi Arabia, I mean, they're going to be looking to pick up points against Poland and Mexico. And I think it is possible that Mexico finish bottom of this group. And it's actually, a little tidbit, what I have in my predictions of this MLS Qatar Quest bracket challenge.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all I've got. That's all I'm telling you. That's everything. Don't listen to me, though, because you probably won't win.
Andres brings up a good point that, in a Middle Eastern World Cup, that there is some home field, whatever home field you want to say, there is some advantage to that. And what they, like you had said, playing in Saudi Arabia, playing in the Arabian Peninsula, they're used to the climate better than any team outside of Qatar as well.
Right.
So that definitely could come into play if we get some of these scorching hot games, like a 5 a.m. game, which is in the middle of the day Qatar time, that it really could play in to Saudi Arabia's advantage. I still see them finishing last in the group. I just have never been impressed with Saudi Arabia at a World Cup. They haven't really shown me anything until they do. I'm not going to go with it. Group D has another one of the favorites, France, but a depleted French squad, to say the least. No Paul Pogba, no N'Golo Kante, and now perhaps no Christopher Nkunku, who got injured in training. It appeared the studs up tackle that I saw on video in training looked very, very nasty. And so hopefully he can get back on the field in time. A great player for them. They have a pretty easy group, I want to say. Denmark's probably the other team that could compete in that group, with Australia and Tunisia, that I don't think will provide much opposition to the French, at least. Maybe to the Danish, but I still think this is probably, out of all of them that we've covered so far, the easiest group to say that you can pretty much quickly go France 1, Denmark 2, and let's move on, right? Does anybody have anything?
I've seen some people. I mean, no, but I have seen some people putting Denmark at number one with a kind of a
See, I
what do
could
they
say
call
that.
hangover type thing. You could say that too, but I think that yes, those are the two teams that go through, and there's really not much else to say.
If there is a group of death in terms of powers or teams that looked like they could be a very strong contender, that one of them will assuredly miss out, it is in Group E with Germany, Spain, and a very good Japanese squad that has been firing on all cylinders lately, outside of a surprise loss to Canada in their friendly heading up to the World Cup. Costa Rica rounds out that group. That Germany-Spain matchup will be one of, if not the highlighted game of the opening round. Really a Spanish team that so bizarrely is amazing in how they're. It's just A minus players all across the board. They are 26 deep in all, like, just straight across the board. It reminds me of that Dutch team that lost to Spain in their one World Cup win, and that they are just solid across the board everywhere. Germany runs the risk of a little bit of uncertainty in their squad, and the Japanese team, like we said, that is playing really well. Austin, we'll start with you on this group. Help us break it down to start.
One, I think David De Gea should be playing for Spain. No Manchester United bias. I do think it was a little surprising to not see him in the preliminary roster, and then when I watched the last, I think 3 Manchester United games, the way that he's completely saved us, unbelievable that he's not on the roster. But anyway, I think that this does come down to Germany and Spain. Japan will give somebody a run for their money, but I don't think it's going to be one of those 2018 groups where we saw big teams missing out on the knockout stages. Costa Rica are there. I think that this is like the end of like Costa Rica's like kind of reign. They're going to have to completely switch over in the federation and switch to the younger team. But I do think this is between Germany and Spain. I do think Spain will top the group. Because Germany, like you said, there are some questions there, and I'm wondering what they're going to do at striker and how much Moukoko is going to play. I think that that's something that a lot of people are going to be looking for. A 17, 18-year-old at the World Cup could be very interesting.
I think I think Germany will top the group. They always manage to find a way to get it done. I think Serge Gnabry is on hilariously good form. I think they'll score enough goals to get past the Spanish side to top that. I do think Spain will finish second, but when they get to knockout rounds, I don't think they're going to go far. Personally, looking at the Euros, they'll have a bunch of possession, but they cannot convert a lot of that into goal scoring opportunities, and that was their shortcoming at the Euros. And Italy were just able to overpower them and get through. So I do think they'll get past the group stage, but the knockout round, I don't think they'll make it to the final, honestly. But as far as this goes, yeah, they'll finish second. I think Germany's going to top the group. Excited for Moukoko, exciting young talent. Nothing much said. I think Japan will show better than what people expect. I think they're a very good side. And Costa Rica, like you guys said, it's time for the new blood to get in there. And I know Brian Ruiz will probably be there as well. So, he's on the older side, and maybe this is his last World Cup. So, yeah, straightforward group. Interesting group round games, but nothing too surprising.
Interesting. So no one's pulling the trigger on Japan. I'm not. I don't know. I just give it a little thinking about as you're filling things out, because it would not surprise me if Japan shocks the world in one way or another. This Japanese team is it's the best Japanese team we've seen since 2002. So they're not going to get the help that the refs gave them in 2002, but there's still a very good team. All right, as we continue down my favorite group, Group F, this is a fun group. I just think every single game in this group is going to be exciting. You have Belgium, Canada, Croatia, and Morocco. And just really exciting. I think that people are just assuming Belgium's going to win this group, and I am not convinced of that at all. A Canadian team that this is their golden generation, and it's all setting up for 2026, but this is their moment to be able to show that the rest of the world what they're in store for in 2026. This means a lot to them. Alfonso Davies, we'll see if he gets back. Jonathan David's playing well. Kyle Larin, if he starts up top for them, we'll see. Mark Anthony Kaye with some very, very aggressive comments about what he wants to show the world. They're a little bit weak in defense. Don't really have a lot to talk about defensively for them. A Croatian team that is going probably in the opposite direction from their wonderful Euro run a couple of years ago. And a Morocco side, I know I am biased in this, but I am very excited what this Moroccan team can do, led by their wingbacks, Hakimi for PSG, Mazraoui for Bayern. Just a lot. They have Ziyech from Chelsea in the midfield. I think this Moroccan team is fun. It's exciting. I have my jersey is coming. What's today? Thursday as we record this. I'll get it tomorrow, so I have to wear it for this. But the next episode, I'll have it on for you guys. So as we look at this group, I really think that any one of these four teams could win the group, and any two of these four teams could get out of it.
I don't know.
I'm not sold. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I don't think Canada. Yeah, I don't think Canada could top the group. I can see them finishing second, but topping the group. I do think this Belgian team, it's their last chance to really win something with this golden generation as well. So I think they'll go out there. Plus, they have some fresh new faces in there with Charles de Ketelaere. I'm really high on him. He's a great player for Milan. Of course, you have your same olds in Kevin De Bruyne, Lukaku. Let's see if he gets fit. They'll top the group. I can't see Canada, but I can't see Canada finishing second. I think they have enough quality in attack to basically beat anyone in transition, and especially against teams like Croatia, where they like to have the ball and Modric's in the middle and doing his thing. But defensively, will they be suspect? Especially if Davies gets back, they can just punish anyone in transition. Canada, so I'm not sold on them topping the group, but second, yes, it's a possibility. Yes, I'm saying Croatia will probably not get out the group stage, and Morocco will have a better showing than people think. But yeah, Canada can definitely pull second.
I think Canada finished last. I don't see. I don't know if this squad is necessarily ready for the big tournament. I look at the Croatian and the Moroccan teams, and I think that it won't necessarily I just see them pulling results against Canada, and I think that Canada's first game against Belgium is going to be really tough for them to start off the tournament. And I think Morocco and Croatia have really good quality that's going to be hard for Canada to break down. I think Croatia has still one of the most underrated midfielders, even with a Ballon d'Or winner midfields with a Ballon d'Or winner in it in the tournament. There's a lot of players who have come into their own. Pasalic being one of them from Atalanta, who had a really good last season. So I think that Croatia will get out, and I think that Canada do finish last with them. I mean, Canada's never even scored a World Cup goal, I don't believe. I think it's only their second time being in the tournament, and I still don't see this squad being fully ready, but I also wouldn't hate to be proven wrong. I think it would be really cool to see Canada get out and score a couple goals and take it to some teams, but right now, looking at it, I don't see it.
This is my bias group. I have Croatia in last in this group. I think that it's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, and the Croatians are the ones with the least excitement of anybody in this group, and the least momentum of anybody in this group to really make it exciting. And I guess I'll say it. I'm throwing Morocco into the round of 16 just because I want to. So we'll do it. We'll move on from there. Brazil is going to win Group G. Who comes in second? Because that's an interesting one between Switzerland, Serbia, and Cameroon. The Swiss look good. Xherdan Shaqiri's going there from Chicago Fire. He'll be there for the Swiss. They're probably most favored to get out of the group, but could Serbia or Cameroon give us a surprise?
Yes, Serbia.
I think Serbia. Yeah, agree, 100%. They've got a lot of firepower in attack. I don't even know what they're going to throw up front. They've got great strikers. I think their midfield with SMS and Kostic could be really good as well. I think Serbia get out just because of the talent that they have across the board. I think that is enough for them to get past Switzerland and Cameroon.
I agree. Serbia is one of my dark horses, actually. I think they play with a back three as well. They're cross, merchants. They'll just spam crosses in the box.
Kostic.
Yeah, Kostic, he's playing as a
yeah.
left wing back, so there's a lot of cutbacks, a lot of crosses into the box, especially when you have Mitrovic and Vlahovic. If he gets fit enough, you have 2 6-foot+ strikers in the box, and they'll just cross. Plus with SMS in the midfield, just kind of playing in a deeper role, not necessarily as an advanced 8, but more of a deep line 6. Lined up as an 8, he can dictate from deep, and it's just a really interesting system which gets the best out of their players. And of course, you have Tadic, and just a really stacked squad. So I think people are underestimating them, and I do think that they'll get second. And I know Switzerland are probably favorites to get second too, but like you mentioned, Sheridan Shaqiri, he had a really poor year for the Fire, so it entirely depends. But no, definitely not. But yeah, I think Serbia will finish second for sure.
Okay,
yes,
interesting.
Sure.
I have the Swiss, but I understand the argument. I think that it's good. Cameroon, you feel bad for them because if they had gotten a better draw, this could have been a better result for them. I don't think that the draw is very favorable for them to advance given the situation. All right, finally, Group H. We made it all the way to the end, and probably the group that is most up for grabs in terms of nobody knows who's going to come out of this group. You've got Portugal, Uruguay, Ghana, and South Korea. South Korea with a broken-faced Heung-min Son who's going to try and play. But if he can't play or isn't even close to the superhero, I don't see how much of a fight South Korea can put up. A Ghana team that is still trying to figure out what 11 is working best for them. Unfortunately, I think that this group is going to be dominated by Ronaldo talk all day, every day, which is really unfortunate. And we'll see what happens because I really think that it's ruined Portugal's World Cup, whatever Ronaldo's doing. And an Uruguay team that is a lot of people, myself included, dark horse to make a very deep run in this tournament, led by former Inter Miami coach Diego Alonso. So I think that there's a lot of very interesting things in this group. Alex, where do you want to start on the as we spin the wheel of crazy storylines in Group H?
I think Ghana. I don't know. I will say I think Ghana is not getting enough respect. They have a couple of dual nationals that switched over, and Aki Williams is now playing for them, and he's absolutely so good for Atletico Bilbao. Tariq Lamptey, he switched over from England, and now he's their right back, and of course the Ayew brothers and Jordan and Andre. I think they'll do solidly. I don't know if they'll get. They've got some good talent. That's why I'm a little confused. People are.
Salisu has been playing a lot for Southampton. Kudus has been scoring a lot for Ajax, even in the Champions League. Like Ghana's got a good team.
They've got a solid team, and
none of you mentioned Partey too.
And Thomas Partey,
yeah, him too. But I don't know if they'll get past Korea. Heung-min Son aside, they don't really have a solid attackers to support him. Defensively, there's Kim Min-jae, and for Napoli, he's been absolutely excellent. Even now, there's European interest from other teams. He just got to Napoli, and teams want to pick him up. So, besides that, for Korea, they don't really have a consistent enough score other than Son to be able to maybe push. In Uruguay, of course, I think it's a foregone conclusion that they could finish second, maybe top the group, depending if Portugal implode. The Ronaldo issue is a big issue, and I don't know if you guys seen some of the videos on social media. It's of course social media and things that get out of context. But hopefully there's no intra-squad revolt a la France in 2010 because of this.
That's a good point.
So, Uruguay could very well top the group because of that, but, and even then, Portugal don't even necessarily play a good style of football under Fernando Santos. All this talent, Jota's out, all this talent, and they always play this pragmatic, boring, long ball style of soccer. So Uruguay could easily top the group. Portugal second. Maybe Ghana sneaks in there, unfortunately for South Korea. Um, yeah, maybe they'll do some damage like they did against Germany and just kind of ruin someone else's tournament. I don't know, but I think it'll be Uruguay, Portugal, Korea, Uruguay, Portugal, Ghana, then Korea.
And as our producer Andres points out, these teams have history a lot. Portugal, Ghana in 2014, that group with the U.S. as well. Uruguay, Ghana in 2010, Uruguay, Korea in 2010 as well. So a lot of history there. I think this Uruguay team is stacked, especially up top. Darwin Nunez, Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani. They've got Betancourt in the midfield. I mean, Uruguay, for a country of a little more than – oh, yeah, Cavani is injured. You're right.
Yeah, he hasn't featured for Valenciano now, so.
Right, but for a country that has a little more than 1 million people, I think it is remarkable the depth and plethora of talent that Uruguay are bringing to this World Cup. And like you said, Alex, I think that a la 2010, this has the makings of a Portuguese explosion. And even if they do get out of the group in second, they have Brazil just waiting for them in the round of 16.
Wouldn't that be so cool, though? Like, not Portugal, but Uruguay finishing second, Brazil tops Group G, and then you have the next round of South American, rivalry that's been so historic in around the 16. That would be crazy as a neutral, but, let's see.
And I think that the only way that Brazil gets really stopped in this tournament as we move to the broader picture is if it's Argentina or Uruguay. I mean, I think that those are the teams that are sort of built more to take down a Brazil. I don't think that a lot of the European teams that we're talking about, France, Spain, Germany, England, I don't think they're necessarily built to beat. You can't even say Italy anymore. By the time 2026 rolls around, 2014 will have been the last time Italy have been in a World Cup. That's amazing to say. All right, guys, let's get our dark horses, our winners, our players of the tournament. Let's start with dark horses. This is a team either that no one's picking to get out of the group that does, or a team that maybe is on the fence that, let's say, can get to a quarterfinal or maybe even shock someone with a semifinal berth. Austin, we'll start with you, man.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the easy choice in Uruguay. I think that they do have a chance to make a deep run in this tournament. Have a fantastic, amazing, wonderful head coach in Diego Alonso, and I think I do think that they just have a deep team that a lot of people should have their eyes on. I think a lot of people do have their eyes on, and it's for all the right reasons. So 100%, I think that it could be Uruguay making a deep run, and it'd be really exciting if they do, because they are still young as well.
Alex, do you have a dark horse?
Dark horse. I don't know. Definition of dark horse. I mean, will anyone be really surprised if Denmark do well? So.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know. It's hard to say what quantifies a dark horse. Like a team that no one expects.
Yeah, like a team that you wouldn't expect to make out of the group, and or like a team that gets to the quarters or the semis that nobody would expect.
Hitch my wagon to Serbia, honestly. I do think they have a lot of good talent, and they've got a lot of good talent, guys. Like, I think they'll definitely get out the group, and maybe if they get to the knockout stages, they can pull a Switzerland in the Euros. So let's see.
Okay. So I would say that the problem with Denmark is that they're going to run into Argentina in the round of 16, and so that ends their World Cup pretty quickly.
Yeah.
My dark horse, well, I got Morocco out of the group. I got Uruguay in the semis, and here's the big one. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
The USA will make the quarterfinals.
Because that would be great.
Wow.
Because I think if they get Senegal or Ecuador, then that's the matchup that they have to win to make the quarterfinals. So I have the U.S. in the quarterfinals. There it stops. There it completely stops, because then their options are basically Argentina or France. The USA is not beating either one of those teams. But I do think the USA could make a quarterfinals at this World Cup.
Wow.
Watch them finish last and then pull a, what was it, 2006?
Oh, no, I don't think.
I
don't think so.
All right, guys, who do we have winning the tournament? Who's our final and who's winning it all? Alex, we'll start with you.
Argentina, Belgium. I think Belgium will just. I think it's their last shot, and they're gonna give it their all. And I think,
Wow.
yeah. And I think Argentina, Belgium will be the final. And obviously, I think it caps off a good career for Messi with Argentina winning the World Cup.
Wow. I actually have my final is Brazil and France. I think that there will be maybe a little bit of a hangover in the first couple group stage games, but I do think France pick it up throughout the tournament. I think Brazil are way too talented, and I think it's Brazil's World Cup to win, in my opinion. I think they're going to do it. It'd be a great final, Brazil and France, but I think Brazil have all the tools to do it, especially if Neymar is going to play as a 10 and completely just change this. I mean, I think he can have it. He could be playing. He's my player of the tournament, Neymar. If he stays healthy and plays in a 10 role, 100%.
I think that I keep going back and forth between Brazil, France, or Argentina, France. I think France will just wind up being on the easier side of the bracket in the end, and so they'll have an easier time to get there. So I have them on one side of the final, and then it's an absolute flip of the coin, I think, between Argentina and Brazil right now. I have right now Brazil with, like you had said, Neymar is I think this is his moment. This is the time. And, you know, he dealt with all of the memes of him rolling around and everything with that. This is his chance to solidify his legacy for Brazil, bring them back a World Cup with him holding it high above his head. We both have him as player of the tournament. Alex, who do you have?
Messi. Yeah, honestly, I think Argentina side is. I think this Argentina side is just really good. You know, their Copa America win was, you know, inspiring. They beat Brazil 1-0, so I think it's definitely plausible for them. I think Messi, I think he just wants to go out on a high, and I'm not saying that because he's linked to Inter Miami, and if he wins everything possible, he'll feel a bit more content to leave his European soccer aspirations behind. But yeah, I think they're on a roll. Not even just Messi, Di Maria, the supporting cast. Even with Lo Celso out, they'll have Rodrigo De Paul and all these players, and Dybala, and he's fit, you know, playing for Roma. I think they'll just have a deep squad, and it's not just Messi show. He can defer to other players as well. Lautaro Martinez for Inter, he's been in a decent form. So yeah, I'm going with Messi and Argentina to win it all.
Guys, it will be a fast and furious 3 weeks. We're fitting the World Cup in as quickly as we can here. Hopefully never have to do a winter World Cup ever again. And we do have to touch on it before we go to make sure that this World Cup does come with the shadow of it, of the human rights issues that Qatar has had, which has really put a stain on this. There have been countless great documentaries that have been done. There's one currently on Netflix about it, World Corrupt, that was done with Roger Bennett of Men in Blazers, is also very good about the history of bringing the World Cup to Qatar. They have tried to suppress a lot of we even saw already with Danish, I think it was Danish or Dutch TV, had their camera seized from them in the middle of shooting a live shot live on air, and later the government had to apologize to them. We've seen them moving the Budweiser tents, the Fire Festival vibes of a lot of the hotel accommodations.
Yeah,
none of that compared
to to cut you off, Ian, but some of the tents there, they're not equipped to handle the amount of people that will be in Qatar. You know, it's a small country, not even, you know, plus the human rights issue. Like, it's a small country. They don't have the capacity to fit all these people. Not to laugh, but like, how is this going to work? And yeah, just safe travels to anyone who is going, because it does look extraordinarily sketchy. So.
Yeah, it's a shame. And we, you know, hope for everybody's safety, and hopefully it does, you know, touch on some of the things the LGBTQ plus community has been talking about. The U.S. did a very nice gesture in changing their crest to the rainbow flag for this World Cup, the rainbow crest. I think that was a nice way to do it. Denmark is also doing a very interesting stuff with their jerseys, with their kits, where everything is muted. They won't have any of the logos or insignia. They will, but it'll all be the same color as the kit, so that they said they do not want to be seen supporting this World Cup. And I thought that was really interesting. We will try to enjoy the games and try to focus on the football with knowing that there is always larger things in this world at hand and ways that we can make each other and this community and this world a better place and a more tolerant place for us all. Enjoy the World Cup. For our producer Andres, for Austin Roblard and Alex Winley, I am Ian Hess. Join our World Cup Bracket Challenge on MLSsoccer.com. The league is called the Heron Outlet. We will post it all over our social medias. And while you're there, why don't you give us a like, a share, a subscribe, a follow, a comment, rate, review on all our channels, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you back here for a regular edition of the Heron Outlet coming up soon.